أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم صلى الله على النبي الكريم.
University of London, University of Florida, Gainesville, the State University of New Jersey, Columbia University. I don't know that I'm pronouncing it correctly. Humboldt University zu Berlin, and the Wittenberg University Main, all in Germany. In 2012, he was appointed European Union Visiting Professor for the Modern University project at the Department of African Languages and Cultures, University of Warsaw, Poland. He has served as an external examiner at Andhra University, Andhra Pradesh in India, University of Warsaw in Poland, and University of Cologne, and the Humboldt University, both in Germany, of Learning in 2019 by Commonwealth of Learning Canada. And from 2016 to 2021, he was the Vice Chancellor of the National Open University of Nigeria, Abuja. Together as I welcome our speaker, Professor Abdallah Adamu. Thank you, sir. The floor is yours.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله على نبي الكريم. In all of these equations, people talk about double professor. And when people hear about the double professor, what they expect to see a very tall guy. What they see a very tiny person. They begin to wonder, it's really a double professor. But what I want, I like the idea of repeating it over and over again so that the university authorities can hear. Yes, I have 2 professorships, alhamdulillah. But they give me only 1 salary. Now, if they can give me 1.5 salary, that would be very nice. It will serve as a motivation for other people to also say they want to be double professor. But now, everybody will hear, even to get a PhD is very difficult. Then you get a professor. And this guy has got his professor in 1997. And he's crazy enough to look for another professor in another discipline. And they're still giving him 1 salary? So people will say, I'm not going to do that. I will be happy with my single professor. So Aminu, if you are looking for professor of business administration, remember, they only give you 1 salary. He talked completely forgotten about it. I really can't imagine. You know, that all the papers that have been presented. I want something that challenges me, and something that I personally feel committed to it. And I was very happy he picked up this issue of drug use and drug abuse among young people and what we can do in order to ameliorate the problem. And I'm glad the drug barons are here, right? Oh, is that the wrong term? I'm very glad they're here to support some of the arguments or some of the strategies and at the same time to illuminate other things that we need to do. So let us try to understand what drug abuse is. And I will begin by saying probably that all of us are drug abusers. All of us. Each one of us abuses drug in one way or the other. If you know that you did not take Panadol when you have a headache, raise your hand. You have headache and you take Panadol, and you don't do that. Raise your hand. You say, okay. Okay, you are waving, not drowning. The reason is because the moment you feel a little bit of a headache, you take Panadol. Who asked you to take it? If you feel headache, you should go to a hospital. You should go to a doctor and let the doctor say, take Panadol. But so long as you resort to self-medication because you believe that what you are taking will solve your problem for that particular minute, then you are a drug user. People who are 40 years and above will find that they tend to go limpy sometimes, so they may have some issues. So you have all these guys selling all these crazy drugs to them. euphoric feeling, and including household cleaners. Now, what's the euphoric feeling? That feeling where you feel, wallahi man, approach a kawai nake yi sama, sai kawai kana approach. Ba ka da matsala, ka fita da ruwa kawai. Because I asked a friend of mine who I knew was taking marijuana. In Kano, a housewife went on an errand, and she left her husband in the house. Then she forgot something. In daylight, not at night. And she came back to pick up that thing. In her bedroom was her husband and his girlfriend. So you never could believe that a Muslim household woman in the heart of the city will do this. And what annoyed the wife was not so much that the husband and the girl were sitting on her bed, but the way they were smoking it and pouring it through their nose. And when they talked to the woman, she said, "Wallahi muna dan nishadi ne haka, muna dan hutawa." It has become normative, and that is the danger for the society. Specific and psychological effects of drug use tend to vary depending on the substance. Some that makes you happy, some that makes you depressed. I know some who take the drugs and then start laughing uncontrollably. They just simply start laughing. Why are you laughing? To Allah, I just like laughing. So it becomes crazy. It destroys you. It chucks up your mind. And there is no single cause. And people take this drug in order to serve a particular function. Maybe you're married to your wife for all these years. You're really tired of her, but you don't want to say so. What you really want to do is have a divorce, amicable divorce. You go your way, I go my way. But you don't want to get into a situation where because you have 7 children and you don't know what to do with those children. So you take drugs in order to get away from her. And I used to feel sorry for the women, because whereas the men are audacious enough to have alternative ways of dealing with their alternative reality, women don't. But not now, not anymore. Women now also engage heavily in the use of these drugs. So you do it in order to get away from it. Or maybe you have 3 wives, 15 children, and you don't know how to deal with them all. It will be very nice, at least for 2 or 3 hours, to forget about everyone. Because all of them are fighting at once. The wives are fighting, the kids are fighting, and you just simply don't know what to do. You don't have any coping mechanism. So sometimes, ideally, we need to understand people take this drug because they want to run away from reality. They want to run away from reality. Of course, taking the drug will not solve the problem, but counseling probably might. But this culture has not imbibed the idea of marriage counseling so that people can sit down and discuss their problem. I know many people who have problems with their wives, but they don't sit down and talk about it. The most they can do is to send text messages to each other. You have done this to me and I'm not very happy. The only couple that I know are very cold-blooded about their relationship. When they realized that their relationship was not working, after children, after being married for over 40 years, the woman came to him and said, "Look, this relationship is not working." And he said, "So, what do you want us to do? What do you suggest?" So she said, "How about a divorce?" He said, "No problem. Get a paper, get a pencil, and tell me how many times you want me to divorce you." She said, "Okay, about once is enough. You never can tell. Maybe." He said, "No, let me make it 2, okay?" Cold-blooded. They sat down and negotiated. He wrote the letter, gave it to her, and she continued reading he continued reading his daily trust. Just like that. That is probably better than taking a drug. But sometimes we do take these drugs. People do take these drugs because they want to create an alternative reality, because they want to run away from the reality that they are facing. There are some reasons for you that arise from needs specifically related to adolescent development. Maybe your body requires a particular injection of a drug. And so motivation includes the desire to take risks. And you know, I dare you, you're a chicken, you can't do this. Wallahi baka isa ba, kai gabara nan rago ne kai, wallahi rago ne kai, ba za ka iya ba. Mu kuwa, wallahi in na sha wannan goma ba abin da zai same ni. So you feel that peer pressure of taking risk forces somebody to say, okay, I will try it. Autonomy and independence. You believe that the children developing at that particular stage who take these drugs, like to feel that they are independent. Each one of us who has a child aged between 18 to 23 will recognize this recalcitrant, stubborn-headedness of some of these youth, feeling that they are okay, they are independent. Aba mama, ni ba Bayero bane? Gaskiyar magana, ni a daina kiri na kamar yaro, ni ba Bayero bane? Na fi girma. Duk inda za a dace. So that feeling that you are autonomous means that they feel that they can control their lives. They don't need someone to remote control what they do. They are killed. Remember, a boy in Lagos who was killed in a private school just about a month ago. And I also know someone who, I'm not going to mention his name, but he was a very big man. And he had a nickname when we were in ABU. And that nickname involved him taking a cocktail of drugs in order to join a particular club in ABU. For you to do that, you have to take this cocktail of drugs. And this is happening right here in Kano. You know people are taking drugs. And you just simply say, well, like what's the change? If you try to talk, they will descend on you, they will come and kill you, they will come and do so marijuana, it's the globalized popular culture. Young people tend to look up, particularly African American cultural icons, like these weirdos here. Drug addicts didn't get up to the age of 30, they're dead and gone. And then another group comes in and then start the cycle all over again. The quality of family life has been shown to play a very, very important role. The family needs generating sufficient income. The thing that forces parents to say, I can't do it. Take alcohol. It's an endorsement of the fact that alcohol is acceptable. And therefore kids also take their own alcohol. So you don't have the moral right to say your child should not take alcohol while you are taking it yourself. So the best thing to do, they will not smell the alcohol on your breath, automatically on their own. So the beginning point is not society, but we as parents. Transitions are also critical in pushing people over the edge. When you move from one society to another, I know it doesn't happen much, but over there, it is a very, very frequent process. When you change location, you have to go to another location and then create a whole new relationships. That also causes a problem. School dropouts. You guys are very, very successful. Now, each one of you think back. Think back to your secondary school days. How many actually made it? You find that in your class, probably less than 15% or 20% made it. Unless, of course, you attended a private school where, everybody has made it. They have to make it, whether they like it or not, whether they pass or not, they have to make it. But if you attend MA secondary school, then that is very likely. Very, very few people actually make it in that MA secondary school. So when they have a very, very vulnerable and difficult family backgrounds, then they come up with all these, and that is what causes all these kind of problems. They either inject drugs or they get involved in sex trading. And the sex trading is of two types. As you know, there are three genders right now, three accepted, recognized genders. There are those who self-identify as males, and they have all the biological characteristics to become males. There are those who self-identify as females, and there are those who identify as transgender, not cross-dresser. A cross-dresser is a man who dresses as a woman and talks like a woman. That's different. But these guys are halfway in between. They have both the organs of male and female. So they can create a weird situation where some sick people use them for whatever sexual gratification and purposes. And they are coming out of the world. Initially they used to be hidden because they are afraid, they are scared of their condition, but now they're actually coming out and identifying themselves. So these are the pathways. Proper use. Don't ever take Panadol without getting a prescription from your doctor. All right? Don't ever take any body pain killer without getting something from a doctor. If you don't do that, then you're a drug user. Of course, you probably don't go and kill and rob. You don't do all sorts of horrible things. But the fact is, if you follow the strict definition of drug, then you're a drug user. Or misuse. Doctor says, 3 days, take this, 2 tablets, I mean, 4 tablets by day, 2 in the morning, 2 in the evening for 3 days. After 3 days, you are not really cold. You know, the problem is still there. So what do? You extend as a misuse. It's still a drug abuse. You have to go back to the doctor. And if you notice the advertisements for some of these analgesics are moral. They say, if after 3 days you don't feel better, go back to your doctor. And then abuse. Deliberately taking more than is recommended or taken for purposes other than treating a cough, for instance. And we have all these drug stimulations, drug classification. There are stimulants that give you all sort of euphoric, happy feeling, happy hour, so that you forget the problem that is bothering you, at least for the duration of the drug. Let's start with marijuana. Go to the page of marijuana. From dried and ground leaves and stems of a female hemp plant, cannabis, sativa, hashish, stronger than marijuana. And all of us, this is a class of 2000, right? Talking about people in their 40s. All right? People in their 40s. If you know you didn't dance to Bob Marley, raise your hand. I can't get it. I get up, stand up for your right. All that is what filled the hallways and all that. But a lot of the lyrics were glorifying drugs. So we think along, we're talking about glorifying drugs, even glorifying alien religion like Rastafari. Maybe some of us here, I'm sure if you go back to the pictures of some of us in secondary school, you might see some dreadlocks, so that you feel that you are connected to Bob Marley, so that you can come out. It's all that part of identification. I can look like Bob Marley, and that's that we can get. And they're there in our phone, but we don't want our kids to see it because we are projecting a different image from us. But popular music, particularly by reggae musicians, is one of the ways in which the use of drugs is perpetuated. And when you see them on television, you become more carried away. Hands up if you did not watch Bob Marley, No Woman, No Cry. We all watched it. And if you don't watch it on TV at that time because you don't have TV, but now it's on YouTube. And probably the first thing that you try to watch is Bob Marley's live performance of No Woman, No Cry. And you remember the way he was closing his eyes. He was high on drugs, okay? But he was producing beautiful music, and that is the kind of identification a lot of us want. This guy, and the rate of daily use are on the rise. People are using these drugs more and more. The effects are psychological, the feeling of relaxation and sociability. When somebody just starts relying on that, it damages your lungs. Then there are others, like opium, morphine, heroin, codeine, which produce euphoria, drowsiness, lack of coordination, and they give you a rush. You take it and then you feel rushed up. Like I said, most of the popular artists, most musicians and artists use all these drugs in order to get their own creativity. And when you develop when you tolerate it over a period of time, muscle soreness, twitching, tearfulness, yawning, and so on. And many users, of course, resorting in legal activities to obtain money for the drugs. Theft, prostitution, and dealing with drugs. Exposure to infectious diseases, shared needles, HIV. In San Francisco, they have a very crazy way of dealing with this. They have done all the advocacy that they can about people stop using needles. But people are not listening. So what they do is they go as early as possible and remove you. Stay awake until the morning. Luckily, I think the Nigerian government realized that that was a misused drug and it was bad. I haven't seen in Ahmadu Bello University in the 70s who were taking that thing. And if you see them now, they look different. So there's hope. You may be a drug user at a particular age in your life, but eventually you turn out to do something else. And that is the job for the NDLA people. It's Hariji. So if people have all this weird sexual desire, or even if they don't have it, and they feel that they have to be formed based on people who live in that community and they become monitors. And when it gets to a situation where they cannot handle it, they need a political economic approach. Then it means they can now go back to NDLA. And NDLA has a hotline where they can get to them. Local news media to target community leaders and view the community as a resource to mobilize for system change, not for individual change. Not just one person or two people, but the entire system is change. And seek to either to reduce supply or associated risk rather than reduce demand for drugs. Don't worry about the demands. The demand always works with the supply. So long as there is a supply, somebody will demand it. But if you cut off the supply, then you are cutting off the demand. And if the person in this community, let's say for instance, using my own community, let's say Deneji. If somebody from Deneji knows that there is a CBO, anti-drug CBO in Deneji, and that has cut off the supply of drugs, and he attempts to go to Sheshe, which is the neighboring community, to get it, that CBO in Sheshe will also prevent it. So that way, we have entirely mapped the entire city. So I think that's what NDLA can do in order to make sure that there is a community presence of anti-drug system. Schools use a wide range of supplies, which are there in custodians, people who look after the building, those people who clean the place. They have all these solvents, and these solvents are used by those little boys in the school. So we need to also be, that's a problem. Because he's using these perfumes to mask the smell of the drug. So it's very, very important. If suddenly he started using Kano then what are you doing this? Then he's masking something. You need to find out what is in his pocket, what is in the locker, what is in all those places. He is masking something. So it's very, very important. Don't think suddenly designer she might have the taste. He wants Gucci or Versace or something like that. No. The stronger the perfume, the more it masks all those horrible things that they take. So it's very, very important to understand that. Relationships with family members deteriorate, a changing personality emerges. At any stage along the spectrum of drug use, it is important to intervene and seek professional help. Ladies and gentlemen, if there is one word that will summarize all of this, it is responsibility. We need to be responsible. We are not going to push to the government. We don't have to push to the community or to school. But it starts from home. Because they say change starts with me. And finally, these are local names for some of the drugs. Tramadol, Ja or Konkosia. Which is just horrible. A political movement has now been turned into a drug symbol. Ja or Konkosia. It's nothing to do with the ideology, nothing to do with the guy who initiated, who inspired the name. But now he has been identified with Konkosia. Why? Because the rhetoric, the political rhetoric, deals with violence and power. And who does that? People who have drugs in their streets, so that they are violent. So unfortunately, it has become tied down to a drug. Robenol, alawa. It's a date, rape. It looks like a sweet. You give it to a woman and you rape her. Or in the other case, you give it to a man and you rape him. So a woman can actually rape a man. And a man can rape a man. A woman can rape a woman. Either way, it's just crazy. Exo, para, kosha, gagalja. And the names are really interesting. They are ethnographic. Sha, gagalja. Which means only the person who takes it knows the kind of visions and imagery he's seeing. D5, yellow boys. Diapazam. We all take diapazam. That is a Valium, right? But you're not supposed to take Valium until a doctor prescribes it. And Valium is not really a sleeping pill. It's not really meant to make you sleep. It is meant to relax your muscles. Once your muscles are relaxed, then you sleep. Marijuana, of course, Maro, Ganye, Rochi, which is taken actually from the name of the company that produces the Roches. It's called Omo, codeine syrup, cocoa magazine. These are just some of the few ones we're able to get. I'm sure there are many more that you can come up with. So like I said, responsibility. We need to be responsible to ourselves. We need to be responsible to our children. We need to be responsible to our family. It is only when we do this responsibility that we expect the society to do something to help drug abuse. But unless we accept that there is a problem and that we are the beginning of the solution of that particular problem, we are not going to get anywhere. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor. About class 2000, we have Dr. Asama, who have to be gender sensitive. Please let us have guests also. We have guests from, I mentioned, but today is the day. I know geography students, you're always late. You're always late. Honestly, I don't know. Always, when we were at school, you are always like that. Baba was, look at you. You will play my team. Okay, now I think we should go straight to the question and answer. But before we go into that, I will give the experts. I introduced them earlier. We have Dr. Ibrahim Baba, Deputy Commander of Narcotics, who is here with us. And we have Yahya Mohammed Aminu. So they are experts in that field. Maybe we just give them like 5 or so. Then we go to the question and answer. So who will talk first?
Assalamu alaikum. The men, the convener, the celebrant. So permit me to stand on the existing protocol since we have very few minutes to talk. Honestly, I must confess, the professor did a very wonderful and very excellent job as far as the topic is concerned. I begin to wonder if he is actually not a typical drug reduction expert from NDLA, honestly. I want to respond to 1 or 2 observations he raised during his lecture, even though he's not here. He started, I think, talking about the traditional concoctions people do sell in the town. So one of the restraints NDLA has is, first, we have to determine the chemical content of that concoction. We cannot just see somebody selling concoctions and we begin to arrest him, maybe simply because some people believe it has a side effect. The chemical content will have to be determined. Then when the chemical content are determined, then they will be listed. If they are not already listed, then there will be a law. It has to be under a law. So once the constituents of that concoction is put under a list and under legislation, then definitely NDLA can be able to arrest. But without a legislation, without listing the chemical content of that concoction, NDLA cannot arrest. So these are some of the restrictions, honestly. And Professor also gave a very beautiful idea of creating a social media groups and maybe NDLA using a hotline, maybe talking directly with the community in that group. I think that is a very wonderful idea, honestly. And we will consider writing a memo to the chairman, chief executive, given these recommendations, if they do that, because that will not cost anything, honestly. So we'll consider that. But the professor talked also about supply reduction. Honestly, we have been doing very, very well in supply reduction. It's just that the problem is so big and enormous. That is why sometimes you tend to see as if we are not working. I speaking here, last year I was able to arrest in a single seizure 2.605 tons of tramadol at Adamu International Airport. A single seizure. And you imagine if 2.6 tons, we are talking about tons, not kilograms here, tons. You can imagine if all those drugs went to the community. What do you think will happen? In fact, personally, I was able to arrest CAT at this man Kano Airport because they keep experimenting, bringing new types of drugs not everybody knows about cat in Kano particularly, honestly, if not the expert, but I arrested over 300 kilograms of cat. It was declared as thief in Kano airport here. Yes, and so many other types of drugs. I think the only issue in the past is this issue of advocacy. We don't so much talk about the achievements, but I think the present government is doing just that, honestly. Then honestly, there are clubs, drug-free clubs in Kano. I'm aware of that, even though I'm not in the state command, but I'm aware there are drug-free clubs. Even though I must confess they are not enough, considering the size and the nature of Kano. But I know drug curriculum, drug education has been included in our school curriculum, particularly nursery and secondary schools. They are part of the curriculum, honestly. So I think this is where I'm going to stop, considering the time. I must confess again, Prof. lecture was a very excellent one, honestly. I think NDLA is supposed to incorporate him in our drug demand reduction unit. Thank you so much, Prof. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. So, thank you very much for that wonderful comment. Now we have another event immediately after this one. So we will take some questions. Comments? Okay. No problem. No problem, sir. No problem, sir.
Thank you very much. Well, I don't think talking and repeating what others have said is an important thing here. Though I must really, like you said, anywhere I go and I sit to listen to fora like this, I always know that I will get something. With my 20-something years experience, MC, we are going to give you a flash so that you give us part of the paper, and I think we are going to sit down and at our own little time and view, we will pick those issues raised and we'll make sure that we make something good out of them. Still about these local drugs, because they are becoming a matter of concern. If you go to our village market and all over, it's all this selling of drugs and drugs and drugs, these traditional drugs. You see, NDLEA is not our role at all. We have NAFDAC, though we should have synergy with them. It is the responsibility of NAFDAC to make sure that they register these people and regulate them and make sure that they know the chemical content of this, what these people are selling to the people in the society. I am not saying that traditional medicine is not good. It's not my field. However, most of those things that these people are selling are poisons to the body. Because they themselves, they don't know the actual, they will not be able to tell you how these things are produced. What are the chemical contents of even the trees they are using to produce these things. Some of them are very, very, very harmful to the liver by the time you take them constantly. And they use one medicine to cure so many sicknesses. Somebody will tell you margarin basal, and then he will tell you that it's, at the same time it's a margarin cancer. So they use one medicine to do everything, and they continue to deceive our people. And I know because of our healthcare, the common man find it difficult to get normal healthcare delivery. And that is why we tend to go into our traditional medicines. If the government can improve our healthcare system, I am sure patronizing these people will be less. So, like I said, Professor, I will also want to, because the commissioner is here, I would want to plead with the state government. We have been cooperating together. Other state governments, let me learn from the Kaduna state government. They have Bayero for substance abuse. And this Bayero for substance abuse work hand in hand with NDLEA. Of course, we have restraints in terms of manpower, in terms of You know, we cannot do it all alone. It is a community thing, just like what the Prof has said. We all have to work together, right from parenting up to the community level. All of us have other states in producing a value for substance abuse, so that other substances that are not in our list, that we cannot arrest and take to court, then the Bayero on its own can put an edit. Then you can take them to even magistrate court and be able to be prosecuted. It's not all the drugs that are under our own. All the harmful drugs that our youth take, which we don't have power over them. Now when you have a Bayero and then the state enact a law to produce that Bayero, the Bayero can be able to take care of all these kind of drugs and then be able to make sure that the society is wiped of this bad effect. Thank you very much.
Sir, I'm fascinated by the fact that you said NAFDAC is responsible for, you know, some of those things, and you are. But if you look at it philosophically, anything that will destroy a human body is a drug. That is a drug. Is your concern, regardless of whether it is under NAFDAC or under religious scholars, or whether it is Harvard Sauda or something like that. Philosophically, the moral mandate of NDLA is to prevent drug abuse. It didn't say from Pfizer or from anywhere, but a drug abuse. So, if this political economy of tough territoriality is there, medicine with the proper legislative powers, because I think the reason why we are against this traditional medicine is because of lack of scientificity. They are not scientific, and we want something that is scientific. So, and NDLA is dealing with scientific drugs. I think you need to change the paradigm and move into non-scientific drugs, because, like you said, one drug cures all, according to them, and it doesn't work at all. And so we need to create a working group, a task force, if you like, that brings the best of NDLA and the best of NAFDAC, and attack the issue of substance abuse. Let's say drugs, let's say substance. So if you give Tagargadi, and you say Tagargadi is going to do something, then it is substance. It's substance abuse. Thank you, sir.
He talked of synergy between NDLEA and NAFDAC. Sir, with due respect and apology, let me say, synergy between and among ministries and parastatals in Nigeria is not existing. And that is why we are having all these problems we are having today. I'm very much sure if there will be a synergy between these two departments, NDLEA and NAFDAC, the work would be better. But from the look of things and how things are being run in this country, that synergy will be very, very difficult. That's number one. Number two, I believe this issue of drug abuse is an issue that you cannot say this is the beginning and this will be the end. Because there are substances that are very much local. Sometimes you can't even imagine how these people that abuse drugs got to know that if I combine this and that, it will intoxicate. So NDLA may concentrate on those issues that are glaring, but certainly there are some substances that can be concocted and they can intoxicate, and nobody will know until when maybe we advance research, we find out. That is number two. Then number three, Doctor, I believe as a classroom teacher, to have solution to this problem, maybe we have to go back to our curriculum. What we teach our students in primary school, what we teach them in secondary school, and what we teach them in university. Let them understand the dangers of abusing the substance. We have to do that. So this is my submission. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr.
Not only from the people that sell, from downwards or upwards, I think it is the most important. That is what is the most important problem, I think.
Thank you,
Not just the people that sell it, from where it is, yes, the farmers and everybody that supplies it to them that sell it.
Thank you. I think the most important among those things is education. If we educate these people, as he earlier says, tell them the danger, the consequences, the destructions of these things. Let me give you an instance. I know of someone that stopped smoking by watching opera show. He watched an opera show. Somebody watched opera show from abroad. She now stopped smoking. Then she was invited to that show. So she was telling them how she stopped smoking. And that gentleman was watching. So now they show, I don't know how you put it, is it video or something, that someone smoked, and the smoke went straight to him, went to his lungs and blocked the lungs. That's not all. The danger is he may likely, I stand to be corrected by the medical doctors, have cancer of lungs. Now remember, if they say cancer of breast or whatsoever, they cut it. What about cancer of lungs? So from there, the man was scared. That was what stopped him from smoking. So if we continue to tell them the danger, the consequences, and show them some examples of those people, just like what the professor says. He has some friends, they have been rehabilitated, but they are now somehow majnoon, you know? They will never be straightforward, they will never be okay. Now if you cite an example to them, look at what happened to these people that have been doing it before you were born. So all these things, I think, definitely will assist in the society and help. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Dr. Menasara Pupi, Department of Mass Communication, Bayero University. Though I'm not a member of TUSONA, but I'm a very good friend of TUSONA. I graduated in 2021.
Yes.
I think just a piece of advice to NDLA officials. I want to suggest that you should emphasize on community effort. It's very important. When I was living, before locating to campus, I lived or stayed at Dambari here, opposite the new campus. There is a community effort, a situation where members formed a committee, a kind of committee with a view to address that particular issue. And this person who apprehended his own son, the eldest among them, and submitted him to the members of the committee that, look, my son is in a very serious drug abuse. I tried all I could at personal level, he didn't stop. So now I'm handing him to you to do whatever you think it's important for him to do. And thank God that every day the guy stopped anything that has to do with drug abuse. So I think it is important for the members of NDLA to emphasize this community effort. If it means forming committees at everyone in each of the local government, please kindly go ahead and do that. I'm sure this will certainly help in addressing this problem. Thank you.
In English, but not compulsory credit, or even just pass in drug education. I think we need to change the paradigm, sir.
Honestly, Prof has already solved the problem, but it's like some of the speakers keep repeating issues around the solutions that has been already provided by the professor. But I would like to respond to the first speaker that NDLA should address the root cause. But before I will give you a highlight, before I will answer this question, I don't know whether you are aware that drug is a bailable offense in this country. I don't know whether everybody is aware. If you, as an NDLA officer, you can arrest a drug that is maybe as big as this hall, if you take him to court, the next morning maybe he will be on bail. Yes. Drug is bailable offense in Nigeria, and it's not for NDLA to decide the punishment or how drug dealers are going to be treated. It's not for us. We are only public servants. When they give us the law, we enforce the law, and that is all. So drug is a bailable offense, and drug, you are talking about money. A small carton of tramadol in the streets of Kano is sold at over 15 million. And it's just a small carton, 15 million.
on the streets of Kano. So somebody that has hundreds upon hundreds of millions of naira, if you take him to court, I don't know if there is any judge here, you forgive me. They know how to use the lawyers and maneuver their ways and get the bail. So once they are out on bail, it is believed that NDLA has released them. And we cannot come out every time to tell people that so person has been granted bail by court. It's not our job. It is the court. So it's not as if we don't arrest these people. We arrest them almost on a daily basis. We take them to court, we arraign them, but they are released on bail. And even the judges, you cannot blame them. It is our law. So it is left for the society to demand that this is what we want for drug dealers. Well, they are killing our children, they are killing our future, and nobody is talking about it. Let them be given a minimum of 10 years imprisonment, no bail. Once the law is passed that way, we don't have any problem. Then you can now hold NDLA to account. And talking about CBOs, I think we have CBOs. It's just that there are not many, as I have said earlier. And the solution Professor gave as far as drug policing, community policing is concerned, I think is the best. And that is why we said we are going to write a memo to the chairman, chief executive officer, suggesting some of these recommendations by Prof. So somebody was talking about synergy and NAFDAC between NDLA and NAFDAC. There is synergy, honestly. In fact, up to the level of Karota and Hisba in Kano. There is a task force, I know, a drug task force in Kano that work with Karota, Hisba, everybody is there, including immigration, customs, DSS, everybody is there. It's just that the problem is so big. So let us demand from our legislators, and thank God we have a legislator in our midst. Let us demand from them that we need a stricter penalty for drug offense. That's what we want. If to say this elector has any link with, let's say, drug and violence or terrorism, all of you will be shocked here. Honestly, if you see the nexus between drugs, violence, and all these violence killings going on in the country, it is drug, either drug influence or drug money. Yes, we know the relationship, honestly. Then we discuss about these illicit substances. What we say is, if actually we have this concoction, talking about this concoction, we need to determine the chemical substance. Once we determine the chemical content, we can know whether it can be listed or it cannot be listed. And when it is listed, we arrest them. We don't care whether it is a local drug or not. Then talking about curriculum, I think the curriculum is there, but maybe it's not as rich as what the professor said. So, and the level, it's only stopped at JSS 3, I think. So maybe they should extend it to senior secondary school. And maybe, yes. So we are going to look at that honestly. Then supply court also. So this is the concern that so many people were discussing about supply of illicit drugs. So this is the concern. It has to do with legal framework of the NDLA, honestly. Thank you so much. I will stop here.
With that, I want to put the question. He asked the question. I want to put the question. Those in favor of giving Professor honorary award of class 2000, say aye. Aye. Those against say the ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, Honorable Speaker. Now, Honorable Commissioner.
All right. Our able and, of course, double professor, as you said, our member of the Federal House of Representatives, Mr. Speaker of the Adamu State House of Assembly, members on the high table, my distinguished colleagues of class 2000, Assalamu alaikum. My one is to acknowledge the recommendation by the NDLEA for creating a Bayero in Kano State. We acknowledge and I promise you that your message will get across to His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Kano State, on personal notes. And at second level, we'll also go to the State Executive Council. We are going to raise it and discuss it, inshallah. As regards to the paper, Professor have done enough justice for the paper. So I don't think I have any addition or whatever to say but that. But here in Kano, the government of Kano State is taking this issue of drug abuse very, very seriously. Because I remember, as members of the State Executive Council, before we were appointed, the NDLA testified that we were referred to the NDLA. Each and everyone has to undergo drug tests, and after we passed that test, that was when they appointed us as honorable commissioners. Secondly, encourage
Dais Africa to come and assist Right Honorable Speaker to present a token to our erudite scholar, Emeritus. For my Team Blue, please raise your hand. Yes, I know, all the geography are rejecting my... Umar Haruna, please, I'm not taking it.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the organizers, first, and all of us, class 2000, Bayero University Kano, I am honored. This is just a sign of appreciation for being partner, being advisor, being a mentor to some of us, and being one of a part of class 2000 that we will not forget. We appreciate you a lot, sir, and I'll hand over this to Isa, who will in turn hand over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Thank you very much, Dais Africa.
He's very versatile and he can talk in almost every field. Just call him and he'll just deliver. So thank you very much, sir, for your time and encouragement. And inshallah, one thing I would want to say is that Prof has been mentoring us for a long time. The last time we met, after he went on the tenure with the National Open University. When we met, the first thing he asked me, "Are you now a professor?" That's the first thing he asked me. That is the Association of Class 2000. Those of us that graduated during the year 2000. You can see among us we have very big people. To say we have a speaker, we have a legislature, we have Grand Caddies, we have LMIs, we have so many people, very, very important people. We want to express our appreciation, sir, and we will always remain grateful for your time and efforts that you have always been giving to this particular group. Anytime we call on you, I remember when I met Professor in the office that this is what we said, no problem. I said, okay, come up with the topic. He said, no, you should come up with the topic. Okay? That is to show you, in fact, if it was me, you met me, I would say, okay, no problem. I'll just go through my archives, pick a paper and just present. But you want to feel, you want us to challenge him. So we must come up with a topic. That enough is a trauma for somebody to sit there and write a paper on an issue that may not necessarily be his line of interest. Okay, and you can see how good he did that. That we are very, very grateful, sir. And inshallah, we will ever remain grateful. And one important thing, I think, is organizations. I think that's the only way to tackle drug issues, particularly in Kano, in other parts of the country. Because we have the laws, we have the structures, but they are not working. And the only way, I think, which has been tried, somewhere over I think they did something like that, and I think it worked. So I think the CBO is the best approach to deal with drugs in this part of the country. So I think this is the takeaway. So we thank you very much, sir. Once again, thank you very much for the class. We are grateful, sir, and we look forward to working with you next time. Thank you, sir.
Now, 11, 12 years from now, is to celebrate the class and to celebrate his second professorship. Now, 11, 12 years from now, is to celebrate the class and to celebrate his second professorship.
We are going to have a double professor from our class chapter, class 2000. Professor Aminu, I know you are in trouble. That's fine. Okay, we are going to have a photograph. We are moving the chairs forward.